Looking for some digital magic to help you through your week? The Kingdom Report is here for you, covering the latest Disneyland and Disney World news, experiences, and events. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Kingdom Report Live so you never miss an update. And drop a subscribe on the Kingdom Report YouTube channel for new videos every week. Don't miss out. Join this growing community of theme park fans as we aim to connect you to more of what makes you happy. For more information, visit KingdomReportLive.com. And now, back to the magic.
Welcome aboard the Omnibus. Now for your safety, we ask that you remain seated, keep all hands, arms, and skillets inside the bus at all times, and please supervise those children. We'll be back in about 10 minutes, sir. That was just a friendly reminder this is when we stop down a beautiful Sleeping Beauty castle. Welcome aboard the Omnibus, everyone. And now we'll welcome to Main Street, USA, and more importantly, thank you for joining us here on Disneyland's 67th birthday, everyone. This park was originally founded upon and opened July 17, 1955, so it is a very special day. Once again, thank you for joining us, folks. We're in Town Square. We've got a lot of activity about the Main Street vehicles, tons of character meet and greets, and a little bit of Taylor magic. What's up, Taylor? Happy birthday. As everybody else whose birthday is on board, happy birthday as well. By the way, folks, we do have a Disneyland celebration. I believe it's going to be right here in Town Square. It's in this exact area where we're at, about 12 p.m., folks. And 9:10 Spectaculars, we do have Disneyland Forever, our Fireworks Spectacular at 9:30 p.m. And the Mason Electrical Parade, which has 10 parades, I believe it's at 8:45 and 10:45. Along with Fantastic playing at the Rivers of America. And that one looks like where it's about to turn down beautiful Main Street, USA. And just look at that view, everyone. And if you look right up here on the right-hand side, that is the Main Street Cinema, where we're hosting 6 great Walt Disney cartoons, all in beautiful black and white. And you didn't know, someone, Plane Crazy was actually Mickey Mouse's first cartoon to ever get featured on. In fact, that animation is actually so old, it actually doesn't even feature sound. So look at the right-hand side if you want to check it out, folks. Right up here on the right-hand side, that is the Market House, where we're proudly serving Starbucks coffee. And just down the walkway from there, this is where the Main Street lockers are at. Right up here on the side, folks, that is the Carnation Cafe. And some future menu items include Walt Disney's chili. I guess somebody actually uses his own family recipe just right here in the parks. Right up here on the left-hand side, everyone, that is the Gibson Girl Ice Cream Parlor, where you just sell ice cream by the scoop, sundaes, and floats. I guess, everyone, you can't get a sundae on a Sunday. And that one just on the right-hand side, that is the Plaza Point, our year-round holiday shop, where you sell anything from Christmas souvenirs and many more, everyone. Yeah, if you do want a Christmas souvenir inside, there you go. That is your perfect shop, everyone. Even in the middle of July. And started walking right over here. We've got the First Aid Lost Children Baby Care Center. One of this guy's hat is a Mickey Mouse hat. Actually comes from Disneyland Tokyo, everyone. Really cool souvenirs from those parks. And straight ahead of one, that is the beautiful Sleeping Beauty Castle. And one fun fact, so we're on the topic of Disneyland's birthday. This castle is actually the only castle that Walt Disney himself has actually gone through. Yeah, a lot of the final attractions I did.
Disney News Talk Live. Welcome to it, friends. Wade for the Kingdom Report. Hanging out with you once again. You see the cover image. You see what we're talking about today, first and foremost. And that is all about Bob Iger's biggest regrets. One of the biggest? Reportedly, Bob Chapek. Anybody surprised? Anyone shocked? I think it is wild, definitely, to realize that we've come from a place where he was publicly supporting the guy, absolutely loving him, and sharing just how great he was going to be for the company, how wonderful things were going to be overall. And then we've had roughly 2.5 years, 2 years and some change with Bob Chapek. And boy, oh boy, have we figured out how things were going to end up. Have we experienced how things were going to be, haven't we? And now Bob Iger sort of coming out in this way that he has, a lot of Disney insiders acknowledging that he's basically admitted now that this is one of his biggest regrets in business. Great to have you with us, everybody. As mentioned, Wade for the Kingdom Report hanging out with you today to talk all things Disney news. Everything from, yes, the most recently shared Bob Chapek versus Bob Iger saga that does not seem to go away, including more on the Walt Disney World Brawl that I don't know if you heard about this past week, but it's one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. It is a repulsive, very troubling video. However, it is something that is newsworthy and noteworthy and might be part of a bigger problem that we are seeing nowadays within the Disney theme parks domestically. We'll certainly touch on that here in just a bit. In addition to that, lots of other great stories to touch on, lots of other great things to talk about. MagicBand Plus finally coming to Walt Disney World. We finally have a launch date for that. So we'll be looking into sort of the specifics around it and what we can anticipate. And in addition to that, we're also going to be talking about the new Disneyland Resort cast member attendance policy. Did you guys hear about this? So this is creating a seismic reaction. Just a monumental reaction when it comes to the frustration levels of cast members at the Disney theme parks. So it's something that California-based Disney cast members are going to face. These are things that they are going to have to now abide by coming up in, it sounds like October. So we'll dive into those details as well. And just what that might mean moving forward when it comes to staffing of the park, when it comes to the realities of operating all of the attractions, restaurants, and what that might mean for retention at a time where things are already so hard for Disney just in general to even keep people present. So like I said, lots to talk about, lots of news stories to get to here today. Before we do, though, as always, this is all about your opinion, your Disney parks experiences. That's what Disney News Talk Live is all about. If you've never seen this show before, let me explain to you. We are dedicated to your opinions, your experiences. Therefore, participation, huge part of what we do here. Typically, Kingdom Report Live, our studio show, where you see my ugly mug and the more beautiful mugs of Katrina Manzoni, Tyler Crouch, Garrett Hassel, sometimes Sabina Graves is with us, among others. And that is more along the lines of sort of our own opinions, our own takes, our own perspectives on the matters of Disney. Today, it's all about you. It's all about what you're thinking, what's going on, what is on your mind when it comes to the Disney global experience. That's why we cover Disney news from top to bottom here, not just about parks on this discussion video. And therefore, like I said, participation is very much encouraged, as here we highlight all of your comments. Here we highlight all of your opinions, and really the show is driven by you. Certainly I'll give my 2 cents here and there where it makes sense, but really it is all about you. And friends, before we get too far into things, a big question for you to start things off today, bit of an icebreaker, if you will. Tell me, where are you watching from? What's your favorite Disney animated movie? I want to know. I want to know. Tell me your favorite Disney animated movie. Tell me, where are you watching from? I'm always interested to see and certainly learn where we have viewers at. This is not part of our podcast platform, Disney News Talk Live. This is strictly video side. So for those that listen to us, they're kind of out of luck today, as Disney News Talk Live is strictly Facebook Live and YouTube. So if this is something that you happen to veer on over towards on the YouTube platform or Facebook Live, you are getting this exclusively. This is not audio related in terms of being hosted on any sort of podcast platform. So yes, please share your thoughts, your opinions, your experiences. That is what Disney News Talk Live is all about. Again, where are you watching from? What's your favorite Disney animated movie? Shout it out, let us know. And of course, as Mike says in chat right now, don't forget to drop a like and a subscribe to support. Mike gets it. He understands. Thank you, Mike. He seems to grasp the concept here of what we're trying to do, right? We can't grow without all of your support, and we are inching ever so closer to that sweet 20,000 subscriber mark. So it looks like we're getting closer day by day, and it means an awful lot that you would be here with us. So as always, if you aren't subscribed, please consider doing so. A thumbs up means an awful lot in everything that we do. And if you know any Disney lovers out there that might appreciate the content that we push on out throughout the week, please share it. Please let people know. That would be very helpful. I would love to know if you happen to have a friend or a family member that would be interested in what it is that we do here. That way we can help support each other and get one another informed even more than usual. I'm looking forward to that. So like I said today, big news when it comes to Bob Iger versus Bob Chapek, a story we'll be getting into here in just a bit. And then I'm also looking at how mask mandates will likely be returning to LA County next week. Now, truth be told, they've been threatening this, LA County has, for months. I mean, I think this goes back to May. So they've been threatening this, I feel like weekly. Local news is, sort of hammering it into everybody's psyche of, hey, you keep this in mind. These could come back. Don't you, go infecting people. Don't go to crowded spaces. You should wear masks. So we hear it a lot. And it's happened, like I said, week after week where they've threatened like, okay, if these cases increase anymore, it's going to happen. And each time we've come close to that moment in LA County where they might implement mask mandates indoors, suddenly that gets reversed because the hospitalizations and the total counts start to dip once again. So we are looking at a potential for LA County getting their mask mandates indoors reinstated. It sounds like there's a lot of pushback this time around, especially since looks like even airlines have revoked that as a part of their operations. You don't have to wear masks on airplanes anymore. It's very interesting. Los Angeles County, shortly after the judge in Florida struck down the mask mandate just in general for airlines and said something to the effect of, the CDC did not have, I guess, the authority to make this happen to begin with, and the federal government overstepped a bit, and therefore this is thrown out. And I remember hearing that this was going to be challenged, and I don't believe that it has been by the Department of Justice. I remember hearing that this was something that was going to occur at some point. Guess not, unless it's just getting delayed, but I haven't seen any news on that recently. However, I understand that in our local news here is very funny. They were at Los Angeles International Airport, stopped by to share with everybody that barely knew what was going on, that mask mandates had been struck down for the airports, for airlines. And a lot of people were overjoyed. A lot of people were like, okay, I'm still going to be cautious. I'm going to keep my mask on. That's fine. This is what I want to do. It makes me feel safer. But they were sharing that on one day. And then I believe it was like the very next day, LA County said, well, this Florida judge might have the ability to say no on airplanes, but we're still responsible for local ordinances. And LA County Public Health decided to implement, I believe it was the very next day, if not 2 days later, but I think it was the very next day, they implemented a whole new transportation hub mandate, basically. And so anybody that was going to be in a transportation hub like Los Angeles International Airport, I think bus stations, on buses, you still had to wear them. So while in the airport, you needed to wear your mask, and then as soon as you got on the plane, you could take it off. It was basically how LA County Health, this is basically how they decided to move forward with things, and that is still in effect, by the way. So still transportation hubs. It's very interesting. And I have flown out of LA County airports, and I don't I don't really see anybody abiding by that anymore. I think that after the switch happened, basically, and things were struck down, it almost seems like, especially for local law enforcement that's on site at these airports, to just not have to put up with the trouble of fighting with people over it, because then they take 30 steps, get on a plane, and it doesn't matter anymore. There is no jurisdiction, and they can just take it off. And then they're closer to people than they might actually be in the airport. So, yeah, LA County making their own rules as they go along, but they are saying it's all based on transmission rates. A lot of frustration in the county from local residents, especially people that own restaurants, especially people that are, sort of irritated with the fact that it's damaging business and ruining business. And so, the reason why I mention this is because it's becoming more of a groundswell of frustration towards the county mandating these things, because they say, this affects our bottom line and nobody's here to help us. Nobody's here to, reimburse us. Nobody's here to help support all of that loss. And we're left to pick up the pieces. We're lucky we even got through sort of the heat of the pandemic and all the lockdowns that we saw here in California to begin with. So, yeah, I share that just because LA County-based theme parks could be impacted by that. However, something interesting, folks, is that I don't think Orange County is going to go that way. Obviously, Orange County radically different than LA. Orange County, where Disneyland is based. Yes, yes. So something to consider is that Orange County will likely not go in this direction. And the reason why I say likely is because while I don't believe the county is going to move forward with any sort of return to masking, and in fact, I believe it's official that Orange County and LA County, either they're right in line with each other in terms of rising cases, or Orange County has just peaked over them at one point. The numbers change obviously day to day, but that's something that I'm hearing an awful lot about. And so whether or not the masking is going to return to Disneyland is something that I certainly know is on a lot of people's minds. Everybody's like, oh, is this going to happen to us? Are we going to be experiencing masking once again inside at the theme parks? I'll tell you that the Orange County Register just reported this past week that while LA County officials are warning they may impose an indoor mask mandate again by the end of the month, but a repeat appears unlikely, rather, in Orange County. COVID-19 transmission is high across the region through the number of cases per 100,000 residents is 100,000 residents rather is lower here than in Los Angeles County, according to the state data. Oh, there we go. But the percentage of tests coming back positive in OC is higher than in LA County or statewide. Okay, so there's the trade-off. Orange County was averaging about 33 new cases a day for every 100,000 residents as of Friday, and about 18% of tests taken were coming back positive. Vaccines and treatments that weren't available early in the pandemic have changed the equation for health officials when deciding whether to bring back restrictions, but a crucial figure in that equation, the number of people testing positive, has also become less accurate as more people use home tests that aren't reported to public health agencies. With rapid home tests widely available, as well as being faster and more convenient than lab-based PCR tests, officials know the actual number of new COVID-19 cases is higher than the official statistics. And the test positivity rate has risen by several percentage points over the last 3 weeks. And there were at least 46 deaths related to COVID-19 last month. It can feel like the virus is everywhere, a supervisor for the county said, who represents the 2nd District, saying, I know somebody whose baby has COVID right now, as well as people who have been infected at least twice. On a personal note here, I know quite a few friends just as of right now sort of hold up who have been infected, experiencing some, we'll say, moderate to light symptoms, but they're still experiencing things, and they did test positive. So this is like, I guess, December, where everybody was getting infected with the last, or I guess the initial version of what they were calling Omicron at the time. And this is sort of that, I guess, mutated Omicron 1B, I believe is what it's called, or something along those lines. So anyways, another mutation of it, but it sounds like sort of running the field again. But Orange County, it sounds like not not believing that the way to deal with it is by having people mask indoors anymore. Whereas LA County sounds like they are going to take the exact opposite direction if numbers do not decrease at some point in the near future. So something to consider if you are making your way to Southern California for a Disneyland versus a, say Universal Studios Hollywood trip. Certainly, folks, you do have the option to always wear a face covering, always wear, sort of glasses or protective sort of eye goggles, if you will. I have seen a lot of that in the theme parks for folks that are concerned about being exposed to, potentially another version, another mutation of this virus. So all things to consider before you make your next trip. However, it does seem like numbers are starting to trip down just a little bit in LA County all of a sudden. Don't know if it's going to make the threshold needed for LA County to reverse course and say we're not implementing masks by the end of next week. All things, though, again, for your wheelhouse of information so that you can make the best possible decision for yourself and your family as you move ahead if you have a trip coming up. Also, another thing that I always like to mention here, Orange County Register, sort of indicating that Orange County in general just will not go this direction anymore. That doesn't mean Disneyland won't, though. I don't imagine they will, but that doesn't mean that Disneyland will not at some point flick that switch if things get bad enough. Mainly because Disneyland, even with sort of the county mandates the way that they were, there was a point, I think a few times, where Orange County, over the course of sort of this long COVID reopening that we've been experiencing in the last year and a half, where Orange County had much more relaxed restrictions and mandates for businesses, and Disney chose to do other things, mainly aligned with what the CDC was recommending. So rather than go with county health, they were going with sort of the federal requirements, the federal regulations that were in place that they could follow if they'd like. So Disney has done sort of its own thing throughout all of this, as they like to say, out of an abundance of caution. So there's always the possibility. All right, so I like to preface it all with that. However, I just don't see at this point reversing course, especially as numbers start to tick down again in LA County. Like I said, it looks like perhaps we reached that peak. I want to knock on wood when I say that, because you never know. Maybe in the next couple days, suddenly, boom, we could be through the roof again. Hopefully not. I guess the good news is that far less people are dying from this now. The better news, is that number has shrunk to really double digits, if not single digits, throughout most months now. One, of course, is always too much. However, to know that we've come from really sort of significant, over the top triple, quadruple numbers and beyond to now just a very small handful is far better progress, of course. And then on top of that, knowing that we are in a place with even fewer hospitalizations, meaning that this is now less and less impactful for folks that don't necessarily have the underlying conditions that could be agitated by it further. So good news in that regard. However, masking may return. All right, enough of that. Let's check in and see where everybody is joining us from. Budo Dave says, let's do this, Wade. Oh, Dave, we're doing this. Yes, we are. We're going for it, bud. You bet. Let's see. We got Rick. In my humble opinion, I think Iger is only saying this is because of Bob's unpopularity and afraid it may tarnish his legacy. Ooh, Rick, you think buyer's remorse, huh? He now sees how poor things are becoming with Chapek, and so he's trying to get in front of it. Yeah, you might be onto something there. Let's see here. Mike checking in from Las Vegas. His favorite Disney animated film, Peter Pan. Peter Pan, very nice. Thanks for checking in from Vegas, Mike. We've got Rocket Raccoon saying, checking in from Phoenix, very nice, and favorite Disney animated flick is Hercules. If you're watching after the fact, by the way, and not a part of the live broadcast, be sure to drop this in our comment section. Let us know exactly what your favorite Disney animated flick is and where you happen to be watching or listening from. Austin says, listening from Oklahoma, and Fantasia is my favorite Disney movie. Austin, underappreciated, I think, is Fantasia. Absolutely incredible. Anna says, Aspen, Colorado, and Beauty and the Beast. Anna, thanks for joining us today. Beautiful Aspen. And yes, Beauty and the Beast. There ain't nothing like it. That ballroom scene, I gotta tell you, pretty spectacular. Jeffrey, howdy in the Kansas City area and Black Cauldron. Oh, yes, long forgotten, but a cult classic. Black Cauldron. Very nice, Jeffrey. Thanks for dropping in. Brian says, oh, hi, California. Up. I love the story. Yeah, that one that hits my heart every single time. Special, special film. D saying, D from San Antonio, Texas. This 49-year-old Frozen fan is obsessed with Olaf. D, you got to let it go. I'm telling you. Come on. And Lou says, Nutley, New Jersey. Loving that Hunchback of Notre Dame. Oh, Lou, I feel you on that one. Terrific soundtrack, too. Tammy saying, Southern California, Beauty and the Beast. Another one for Beauty and the Beast up in here. Shane saying, my favorite movie is Finding Nemo. Shane, you a fan of Finding Dory? Are you excited Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage reopening here in just a couple of days? Yeah, this Monday, as a matter of fact. Let me know if you're a fan of the attraction. I'd love to know that. And Shane is also from Torrance, California, by the way. Let's see here. Rick checking in saying, watching from Simi Valley. Hard to pick my favorite, but I can always rewatch Fantasia. Another one for Fantasia. Look at that. Very nice. Grandpa Russ says, Epi loves Encanto. We're kind of cheating while her mom and dad are out shopping. Oh, very nice. Encanto is a new classic, that's for sure. Joe checking in from New York City. Well, Joe, thanks for being with us. And favorite Disney movie is definitely Mary Poppins. And favorite Pixar movie is WALL-E. Few films I can think of have had the impact of WALL-E based purely on like a social level. And then also when you think about how there's like little to no dialogue in the entire film, it's fascinating what a good story can do, right? Thanks, Joe. Jeannie saying, San Jose, California, love all. Me too. I love all too. Hey, Jeannie, thanks for joining us. All right, folks. And Tammy saying, when will Magic Keys be able to renew? Tammy. I know. It's the question, right? Everybody wants to know when the heck are Magic Keys going to renew. I'll tell you, folks, Magic Key discussion right now is so hot. For anybody that's a local, for anybody that has an annual pass, a Magic Key, as we now call it, to Disneyland, there's like over 1 million people that had annual passes, and I'd imagine that they likely sold close to that level for Magic Keys. The issue here is that Disney is less than a month away from the 1-year renewal date for when they started selling Magic Keys, which means probably 98%. If not, might be a little lower because I know some people bought later. But I would imagine probably closer to 85-90% of the Magic Key demographic. They have no idea how, when. Disney did say they would be able to renew, but they have not indicated how. Leaving it this late in the game, leaving all of this up in the air is only going to create huge problems for Disneyland. Disneyland leadership, the Disneyland cast members that are going to have to deal with this, the main entrance cast members, the ticket takers, ticket sellers, vacation planners, as they call them, they are going to now have to deal with this backlash because it's coming. And I would imagine that what's happening here is that there's some really bad news Disney just doesn't want to deliver. And they don't want to deal with the firestorm yet, so they keep putting it off and keep putting it off. You can't tell me they don't have a plan. You can't tell me they don't know what's going on. So, when will Magic Key renewals happen? When will the top tiers of Magic Keys become sellable again? When will all Magic Keys become sellable again? Your guess is as good as mine, but we are only a couple weeks away. I believe my Magic Key is just under, it's like 32 days, 31 days, something like that, from expiration. No communication. I check all the time. No updates, no words of encouragement from Disney. Nothing. These are big investments for families. These are big investments for a lot of people. And to not have the sort of information you're going to need to plan is just, yeah, it's very disappointing. To think that we've come this far and, a year in and no further information when we were told, you are so valuable, Magic Key holders. That's what they told us. Now we're not even valuable enough to get information on how we're going to renew. So it is coming down to the wire. That's for sure. Very disappointing to say the least when it comes to Disney's handling of the communication of it all. Debbie saying, hello, everyone from Biloxi, Mississippi. Sorry, I am late. Deb, you're not late. We're just beginning. That's why we do sort of these long-winded intros, covering everything, doing some housekeeping, talking shop, discussing where everybody's checking in from. You're not late. We're just getting started. Great to have you with us. My goodness. Tinker Shell. Hey, Tink, saying hi from Santa Cruz, California. Oh, I used to go to Santa Cruz all the time in summer. I grew up in the Central Valley of California, so, closer to like Sacramento. And Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, boy, that would be the summer hangout. Gotta love it. My goodness. Shane saying, Finding Nemo, my favorite movie. Yeah, Shane. Love that Finding Nemo. Douglas checking in saying, hello, everybody. Hey, Doug. Great to have you with us. Akela's saying, Aladdin is one of my favorite Disney animated movies. Yeah, one of my favorites, too. Absolutely. I think, sort of the 90s, that is my favorite of all of the classics, the 90s Renaissance films, as I like to call it. Frontierland Frank says, Northeast PA, loving himself some Tarzan. Frank, thanks for being here from PA. And Douglas saying, Emperor's New Groove, it's a shame that movie is so underrated. I completely agree. Did you ever see the animated TV series on Disney's One Saturday Morning? That was fun, too. All right. Well, I think it is just about time to jump in to some headline news. Trisha saying hello from 100 Degree Philly and loving herself some Mary Poppins. Trisha, great to have you with us. Yeah, it's a hot weekend all over the United States. However, we are getting a little bit of a reprieve here in Southern California, keeping it in the low 80s this weekend. This is why we pay ridiculous amounts of money to live here. This is why we pay such insane taxes, right? And Douglas saying hello from San Francisco. Hello. Nick checking in saying hi from London. 101 Dalmatians. Well, isn't that a fitting film for you to like in London, right? I love that. That's fantastic. And I know that, 101 Dalmatians being, sort of one of those like timeless Disney classics. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I had a Dalmatian growing up because of that film. One of the best dogs of my life, too. Just ecstatic. His name was Alf, A-L-F, as in the late 80s TV series Alf. Yep, Alf the Alien. That's right. Ralph saying, hello from San Diego, loving Encanto. Ralph, thank you so much. Very good. John from Portland, Oregon. John, thank you. We got folks from all over the country here. Kevin, checking in from Utah. Kevin, great to see you. John, like I said, Portland, Oregon. Great to have you with us. Also saying Fantasia, Up, and Coco, favorite films. Very nice. Christy checking in from San Diego. Fox and the Hound. Oh, when I was little, I got to tell you, Fox and the Hound, that tore me up. That was a very emotional story for me. Oh my gosh. I'm a hound dog. I'll never forget. And San Diego, keeping your way out of Comic-Con this weekend. You staying clear of the crazy happening down at Comic-Con. Our Sabina Graves is down at Comic-Con right now, covering so many of the big events. And Dog saying, hey, from Miami, OG Lady and the Tramp in 2000 Leagues. Oh, 2000 Leagues, what a classic. Yeah, Lady and the Tramp, pretty spectacular too. And, checking in from Miami, the tip of Florida. It's great to have you with us. And Natalie saying, hello from San Francisco Bay Area. I'm sure, I think that was the one place in the country that was like the coolest out of everywhere. Out of everywhere in the United States, that was the one place in the country that was the coolest. So, Natalie, you are in luck. And, of course, Pinkerbell says hi from United States. Well, I too am in the United States. Good to have you as part of the country. Liking Onward. Very nice. Yes, Onward. One of the new Disney Plus specials, you bet. Judith saying hello from Canoga Park, California. Hello, Judith. And Natalie confirming that, yes, it was indeed very chilly last night. All right, friends. Very good. Well, yeah, we're going to dive on into the big news stories and talk all about things that have been going on when it comes to the Walt Disney Company, Disney at large. First and foremost, as mentioned, we are going to share all the details with you when it comes to Bob Chapek being one of the biggest regrets for former Disney CEO Bob Iger, finally admitting it. Disney insiders coming forward and sharing their frustration with what is going on as well. This one is this is a juicy story because it confirms an awful lot. The following comes to us courtesy of the New York Post. They write, ex-Disney boss Bob Iger is still reportedly unhappy about the way the Mouse House handled his exit and considers naming current CEO Bob Chapek as his successor one of his worst business decisions. Iger, who stepped down as Disney CEO in early 2020, just before the COVID-19 pandemic hit, came to regret his decision as the scope of the challenge facing the company became clear, according to the report. Quote, he said he was tired of being barraged about succession and said, fine, you guys have someone else run the business, a former Disney executive told Insider regarding Iger's initial decision to step down and name Chapek to succeed him. Quote, he greatly regretted it as soon as COVID hit, the executive added. While the succession plan called for Chapek to report to both Iger and the Iger-led Disney board, their relationship soured quickly. The two executives reportedly disagreed on several key elements of Disney's business, including how the company should be structured internally, its handling of political matters, and its response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The dysfunction was so significant that Iger and Chapek had their own advisory teams that occasionally competed, according to the report, which cited Disney sources and people familiar with Iger's thinking. Disney did not immediately return a request for comment. Iger quickly chafed at Chapek's leadership style and reportedly found his successor to be a novice in responding to talent management concerns and politics-adjacent disputes, such as the company's infamous contract dispute with Black Widow actress Scarlett Johansson and its clash with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis over the GOP-backed law. Iger has purportedly viewed Chapek as arrogant and uninterested in other people's opinions. Disney executives who were deeply loyal to Iger found his selection of Chapek to be confusing, according to one former executive. No one expected it to fall apart this fast, the executive said. When Iger stepped down as CEO in February 2020, effective immediately, tensions between him and Chapek were already running high. The board had expected Iger to remain as CEO through the end of that year. Quote, it was Bob Iger's desire to move the timeline up, and if COVID hadn't happened, none of the stuff between him and Bob Chapek would have transpired, a Disney executive said. The discord continued even after Iger formally exited the role as executive chairman. When Disney faced criticism for remaining silent over Florida's parental rights and education legislation, Iger publicly contradicted his replacement, noting on February 24th that he agreed with President Biden's stance that it was, quote, a hateful bill, close quote. In March, CNBC reported that Iger's commentary on the matter had chafed Chapek. The report said the two men have had a falling out and rarely speak. Tensions between Iger and Chapek reportedly remain high, with the pair exchanging little more than a cordial greeting when crossing paths at the Sun Valley Conference earlier this month. The spat between Disney and DeSantis culminated in the Florida governor stripping the entertainment giant of its special tax status within the state. Disney's missteps prompted widespread speculation that Chapek could be ousted as CEO, with some floating the possibility that Iger could return to replace him. But Disney gave Chapek a fresh contract extension in June, complete with a $20 million annual bonus, a sign that he still has the board's confidence. criticism of Chapek's leadership are irrelevant internally because the contract extension shows the Disney CEO still has the board's backing despite the contract criticism, a source with knowledge of the situation told the Post. The board has bought into Chapek's push for increased emphasis on streaming services and to taking over as CEO, with rapid growth at Disney Plus and other properties, the source noted. Quote, the focus of the company really is on moving forward and executing against his vision, the source added, saying, early on, there was lots of questions and negativity around Iger as well. I would put some of this in the category of the transition of one CEO to the next, close quote. Once again, our many thanks to the New York Post for that story. So now we know that our friend Bob Iger regrets having somebody like a Bob Chapek succeed him in the Disney CEO-ship, as we like to call it around here. We want to know from you, what are your thoughts on Bob Chapek being one of Bob Iger's biggest regrets? I have to tell you, from my perspective, I have a whole lot of disappointment. That's for sure. But we want to hear from you. Sound off in our live chat. If you are watching on demand after the fact, as we know so many of you do, please leave it in our comment section. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Bob Chapek being one of Bob Iger's biggest regrets? In addition to that, folks, we do like to reward you for watching this broadcast. As always, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for your support. And in that sort of vein, we like to make sure that you are taken care of when it comes to your beverages. And therefore, you can win your very own Kingdom Report mug by leaving the phrase that pays underneath this video on our YouTube channel after the live video is over. Once the live video posts, you're able to leave a comment underneath this very video, the Kingdom Report on YouTube. The phrase that pays this week, all you got to write, Tower of Terror, in the comment section down below, just after the live video. If you're in live chat, please do not write it in there. It does not count. You will need to write it after the fact, after the show, in the comment section down below. Tower of Terror is the phrase that pays this week. You have between now and Monday morning, the 25th at 8 a.m. Pacific time, to log Tower of Terror in order to get your chance to win your very own Kingdom Report mug. If you are the winner, we will reach out to you, ask for more information, and send you your favorite color. Have it all on the way for your coffee, tea, beverage pleasure, and you can sip right along with us. Perhaps sipping that tea as we talk about stories like Iger and Chapek. Hating on each other and being regretful. We are definitely going to dive into your comments again. Once more, I like to share when it comes to this whole situation. What do you make of Bob Iger saying Bob Chapek is now one of his biggest regrets at this point in the process? We would love to hear from you. We will get to your comments on the other side of this break. Stick around.
Bowman, pass off bow line. Engine room, ahead 1/4. Engine room, ahead 3/4. Ledsman, sound off. Mark off. Off one.
That's the ledsman calling out the depth marking so we can avoid running aground.
Mark Twain.
Mark Twain is not just the name of a riverboat or a great American author. It also means the water here is 2 fathoms deep. That means it's safe enough for us to proceed on our steam-powered journey along the rivers of America. On our trip, we'll visit the magnificent Columbia of the Great Northwest, the graceful Missouri of the windswept plains, and the rugged Rio Grande along the border of Texas and Mexico. I'll be sure to point out interesting sights along the way, and even tell you about a legend or two. We begin our trip right here on the mighty Mississippi, heading south and ending up down in New Orleans.
Disney News Talk Live. Thanks so much for being with us. If you haven't done so already, hit that thumbs up button. Let us know that you're out there. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss a Disney news update or any of our videos that we cover from week to week, month to month, all things Disney parks, all things Disney trips as well. All right, so we asked you just before we set sail on the Mark Twain there, when it comes to this situation. Now, Bob Iger admitting one of his biggest regrets, Bob Chapek becoming Disney CEO and succeeding him. How do you view this entire meltdown? How do you view Iger's sudden realization that this is regretful? Mike is saying, Iger just deferring blame as usual. That was the whole reason Chapek was hired. You think so, huh, Mike? You think that this was a way for Chapek to be a fall guy? You know, I've heard this theory a lot from folks that potentially Chapek was set up to fail, and that Iger kind of saw the writing on the wall. At least the theory goes that Iger saw the writing on the wall when it came to not only the massive amounts of debt that the company was in due to all of the massive purchases that were going on, but also seeing what was happening in the Asian markets, especially as COVID was obviously rampaging there a lot earlier than it was becoming a problem for us here. And so I think that the theory goes something like he saw the writing on the wall over there. He saw that the whole thing was about to collapse and that it was going to be a real struggle. He didn't want that to tarnish his legacy, so he bounced, and Chapek was the next best thing. And so they just put him in there and said, "Go for it," and good luck. Hope you can be stable. But again, we go back to this idea that we covered it in our last Disney News Talk Live. This idea that the board of directors just extended Chapek's contract. So he's going to be sticking around with us for at least another 3 years at this point, and it's very lucrative. So he didn't fail hard enough, I guess. But Iger deferring blame, you think? Very interesting there. Dog saying, Iger, the destroyer. Oh, dog. Oh, my. Natalie saying, I can't believe Chapek got a bonus. $20 million bonus, right, Natalie? Yeah, I know. After how well the stock is doing. Oh, yeah. And I think the story that we were just talking about here really outlines things well. Just like how Iger viewed him as sort of a novice at dealing with problems and issues. I'll tell you from my perspective, everybody, this is one of the biggest disappointments in realizing that Bob Iger didn't have the, I guess we'll just say guts, didn't have the guts to stand up for what he believed in, didn't have the guts to say, this is the wrong guy. Even though I know he wanted to retire and he was trying to retire multiple times and the board kept extending his contract, I'm sure he was tired and he was kind of sick of being there. But if you love this company the way that you claim you do, and he has, interview after interview, talked about what a responsibility it was to carry on the legacy of Walt Disney, wrote about it in his book, how great of a leader he is, basically. All of his learnings have made him this superstar leader. Well, a real leader would have stood up for a monumental decision like this and said, I think we're making the wrong choice. Seriously, it sounds like this was in your mind long before the board of directors made it so that there might be a problem with this guy. And I get it that he was probably the only person in the bullpen at the time. You didn't have anybody else to really pick from. But perhaps you wait a little longer. I don't know. rather than completely turn off the consumer base and draw the biggest line in the sand we've ever seen between the consumer base and send all of your employees into morale turmoil, which has happened. We've documented it for you here on this channel. Insiders coming forward left and right within the organization, executives saying there is absolute morale turmoil right now, all because of the Bob Chapek extension appointment, him being here and being so tone deaf to things. I can't believe he got extended. I can't believe he got the bonus either, Natalie. Douglas saying, Chapek is so the opposite of Walt Disney, it's embarrassing. He is very opposite of Walt Disney. He even has trouble in social settings, as we've come to find, right? I think that that's something that we've also witnessed. He's somebody that struggles even in the friendliest of atmospheres. He's just not naturally charismatic. This video from the Disney Electrical Parade kickoff at Disneyland, the big return earlier this year for cast members, and here's how he acted.
Bob, so good. How you doing?
Hello, hello. Hi, nice to meet you. Hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
All right, guys.
Bye, thank you.
Nothing more forced than that expression, I think. And, when you're not comfortable in your own skin, how can you be comfortable anywhere else? I mean, it's a very, if you're not comfortable with yourself, if you're not comfortable in your own skin, how do you represent a company that is so emotionally connected to people when you yourself can't connect to anyone? At least that's the appearance you give off. Ralph saying Chapek is another Eisner. I don't know what you mean by that, Ralph. I really don't. Eisner had an incredible run with Disney before he lost his mind, and Frank Wells passed away. We chronicle that every now and then here on this program. Michael Eisner made Disney a household name again. He saved it from the tipping point. He was brought in by Roy Disney, the nephew, to resurrect the company, and he did it alongside Frank Wells. I mean, they brought the magic back to this company. Only after Frank passed away, Michael got really paranoid, kind of lost his mind, super outstretched himself in every direction, had a heart attack in the midst of all of it, and then, had to be basically thrown out of the company. But radically different, especially from a charisma standpoint and an engagement standpoint. Michael Eisner was a guy that absolutely was the face of the company. I mean, I would say far better even than Bob Iger in that regard. Bob Iger was very soft-spoken, never really got in front of cameras too much. Michael Eisner really took the role of being like the vehicle of Walt Disney, the torchbearer of Walt Disney. Took that to heart. You could tell. And there's even documentation discussing how Michael was often seen staying late at night at the studios, going through old Walt Disney's Disneyland TV shows and Walt Disney's Sunday night series, trying to interpret how Walt spoke to America, how Walt connected to the public via those shows, those, single person Walt Disney personality driven shows, and tried to emulate that. Now, does he have the same sort of spark and magic as Walt? Of course not. Walt was, once in a every few generation dreamer, but Michael definitely strived to be more like that, which is more than I can say for Bob Chapek. Lou saying, time will tell, but possibly best case scenario, Disney is bought out by another company. You think that's the best case scenario, Lou? I don't know if that's the best case. My perspective is I'm not certain that another company buying Disney will allow the last bit of Disney heart that we know that still exists to survive, because I just don't know many companies out there that wouldn't come in and completely, like, it's on life support right now, the best way I can put it. Disney's on life support from what has made it great. But I think another company coming in to purchase Disney it's only about profits. It's, kind of like this CEO, but like it's only about profits. It's only about how they can harvest, the intellectual properties. Whereas I think Disney has still enough of an infrastructure of people that are connected to the legacy and the heart of it all that really are guardians of all of this, and are putting up the good fight basically within, trying to push back on, the very powerful CEO and all of this, that they're keeping it alive. They're keeping it on the life support. But yeah, I just don't know that I can trust any other company. I don't know of another company that would come in and do right by Disney. I can't imagine that working out. D saying, This was obviously more than transition difficulties. Oh yes. That's right. Big time. Frontierland Frank saying Bob left early because he didn't want to deal with COVID. Yeah, again, that theory, right? That he saw the writing on the wall over in Asia. Bob Iger had a deep connection to the Asian parks and sort of the Asian market. It still does, to a pretty heavy degree. Bob spent an awful lot of time wooing the Asian markets for the sake of expansion and growth for Disney, and getting the next Magic Kingdoms over there and stuff. So I know that he was much wiser to what was happening than, say, 95% of the population here when all hell was breaking loose COVID-wise on that end of the planet, and then certainly saw what was going on and had some time to react appropriately. So I don't think maybe the theory isn't too far off. He did ultimately end up staying, though. Let's not forget that, to try and right the ship and everything. However, this will go down ultimately as Chapek's legacy, not his. Jeffrey saying, I'm not sure all the blame can fall on Chapek. I'm sure a lot of this was in play before Chapek took the reins, so some of the issues are part of Iger's fault as well. I completely agree, Jeffrey. Iger gets a lot of a pass from people most of the time, as a matter of fact. Iger's looked at as this golden boy, and oh, he did so many great things for Disney, and oh, he's so wonderful. He put the company in a lot of debt. He definitely, over the course of time, I don't think he made all the right decisions. I think there were a lot of missteps, but he never got the blowback that Bob Chapek gets. I think mainly because he's so likable. Bob Iger is a much more likable figure, much more engaging, much more genuine, seemingly. And we even have people on the Kingdom Report team that just cannot imagine Iger doing anything wrong, and think of him as the second coming. And I don't agree with that at all. I think that he stabilized things after the Eisner meltdown. And I think he also, while putting the company back a few steps, perhaps financially, we'll see how long-term things will potentially pay off. He put things back a couple of steps. I would imagine that long-term things will pay off. I'm sure that's why he made the investments that he did. However, there's a lot of money that, he went to the store and he cleaned it out. He bought all the intellectual property in Hollywood. So Disney has stories to go off of for years, but that also kind of removes I think the inner magic factory that is Disney. And so anyway, I agree with you, Jeffrey. There are many issues connected to current day Disney that are Iger's fault as well. So you're not wrong there, that's for sure. And Chapek also has to deal with that in addition to his own problems. Kevin saying, Iger also seemed to enjoy making announcements at D23 when compared to Chapek. That's something I noticed when watching past park announcement videos is all. Yeah. Yeah. So Iger loved being with the fans, or at least he faked it so good you couldn't tell. But I think he was totally in his element on stage. He was a proud papa out there sharing, and here's what we're going to do next. He loved hearing those cheers. He loved hearing people get all amped up. Chapek, let's not forget, earlier this year at the last D23 related event in Florida, couldn't show up. Remember? He couldn't fly out there the next morning. He just couldn't do it because he had something going on the night before, which, by the way, we have found out now what he was doing. He was at Bob Iger's retirement party. That's what he was doing in California. He was at Bob Iger's, close friend goodbye party. Can't imagine how comfortable that must have been. But he couldn't make it out the next day to do his presentation at Destination D23 in Florida. And in his statement, he said, and it pains me not to be able to make it because I love that event. Do you? Do you love the event, Bob Chapek? I don't think you love the event. And don't tell me for a second that Bob Iger, knowing that there was a mega fan event the next day, wouldn't have just said, hey, go for it. It's the right thing to do. And I'm sure Iger didn't even want him there. Sure, because this bitterness pill that we've been hearing about between these two, this extends way back. So, this was at the tail end of last year, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that Iger would have missed him had he not shown up. All right. Judith saying, did Bob Chapek possibly tell everyone what they wanted to hear and not be sincere in everything he said in order to get the job? Judith, great point. And I'll tell you that, Michael Eisner has even come out recently. I mean, we're talking like modern day Michael Eisner. He got asked about, excuse me, he got asked about how he thought Bob Chapek was doing. And he said, I hired him. I think he's doing great. And when Michael Eisner hired him, I believe it was for, I think it was like home video release. It was like, it had something to do with, of course, at the time, because Chapek's been there for decades, but at the time it had to do with like Walt Disney Home Entertainment. And Chapek was kind of innovative in that space, which obviously elevated and highlighted him as an executive. But yeah, I'm not sure necessarily if he was charming the pants off people in the company or just making the right political moves. The reason why I say that is the Hollywood Reporter, and we've talked about this before here, the Hollywood Reporter documented that Chapek internally was quite the political animal in pretty much erasing people from existence at the Walt Disney Company that were in direct competition with him in getting to the top. And the reason why I mention this is because there were a lot of people that were vying for the top spot, as there are in every company. And then the top contenders who didn't seem like they were individuals that could be moved were suddenly eliminated. And I think that's very interesting. Tom Staggs being one of those folks. He was the former chairman of Parks and Resorts. Went on to be, he was CFO before that, went on to be chief operating officer. Most recently, Peter Rice. Chapek fired. And I knew that he was at odds with him. Peter Rice being looked at as the heir apparent to Chapek now, current day. He fired him, did Chapek. So he got rid of this guy not too long ago. And he was seen as the only person in the bullpen waiting to step up to the plate to hit. So now we're back to square one. Who is the one that we go to next in all of this? Who is the next great Disney leader? Is it Josh D'Amaro, the guy that has stood by and let things happen to the parks? Again, we don't want to think this of Josh because he's so charismatic. He's a handsome guy. Everybody seems to like him. But is he the next person to fill this void of CEO 3 years from now? And will Josh D'Amaro end up being worth it in the end? Will he end up being the star we think he is while all of this is happening to parks, resorts, experiences? He is in charge, and yet we continue to see all of these problems. So something to think about. All right, folks. Thank you all for your comments. I know there are many more that have been thrown in here in the last couple of minutes of us talking. I can't tell you how grateful I am that you are all sharing your thoughts, and we will get to plenty more of them coming up in discussing not only the rest of the news that's on tap, but also ensuring that your opinions, your Disney Parks experiences get shown off here today. And next up, I need to warn all of you, this is a troubling video if you have not heard about it. There was a major brawl at Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom to the point that it was considered, something worth arresting people over, to the point that it was considered dangerous and ultimately ended up in sending somebody to the hospital. So what I'm going to show you, and viewer discretion is advised, there's some foul language here. The scenes are tough to watch, but I think for the sake of context, it is important to see the video in its entirety to understand sort of what was going on and sort of just how long it feels like this goes on for before there's any security presence whatsoever. And you don't really even see security by the end. And then we're going to dive right into the specific story of it all and exactly what happened. So again, I do share with you up front, viewer discretion is advised. This is a tough video to take, especially when it's happened in one of our favorite places in the world.
skids here. No skids here. Please back up, boys. Everybody chill. Everybody chill. Please. Hey, stop. Please, no skids here. Chill. Chill. Please. Please, no skids here. Please. Go that way. Go that way. No. They're still jumping around. They put me down. All right, get him off. Listen.
Stop!
I agree. I like that though. But you know what? You're not even about TV. You're not even about TV, bro.
Stop!
Come here.
Stop! Let's go. Move back. Everyone take a step
I'm
back.
trying to step back. Think of the animals. You're animals.
We've got security.
That's not why you guys come over here, okay?
No,
I'm
please.
not fighting. Security's here. We're just gonna have you guys come over here.
The following comes to us from Fox 35 Orlando. They report that another brawl reportedly broke out at Walt Disney World Resort this past week, the second altercation reported at the Florida attraction in the last 3 months. Video posted to social media sites showed what appeared to be a large fight at the Magic Kingdom inside Fantasyland behind Cinderella's castle and in front of Peter Pan's flight. Fists were flying, according to one man who told Fox 35 he witnessed the incident firsthand. He said he recorded a video of the fight, which he later shared with Fox 35, saying, quote, "I do not know what promoted this altercation. We came upon it, and it appeared as though it took about 2 minutes for 2 security personnel to arrive. Deputies arrived probably about 5 minutes after that," the witness told Fox 35. According to the Orange County Sheriff's Office, deputies responded to the park shortly before 7:30 p.m. for the fight, and following an investigation, they arrested 3 people for misdemeanor battery. One man involved reportedly had injuries to his face, and EMS responded. The Sheriff's Office confirmed one person was taken to a hospital for a minor injury. In May, a woman suffered a head injury after deputies say she hit her head on the ground during a fight with a couple over where to stand during the fireworks show at Walt Disney World. According to an incident report from the Orange County Sheriff's Office, on May the 9th, deputies responded to Magic Kingdom after a man says his wife was injured during a confrontation with other guests. The man reportedly told deputies that he and his wife were waiting for the fireworks show to start when 2 females and another man forced their way in front of them. When his wife refused to move, one of the women reportedly grabbed her by the hair and pulled her to the ground. Peppers flared earlier this week at a popular California attraction as well. The Knott's Berry Farm theme park closed a few hours early after reports of multiple teenagers fighting. Once again, our thanks to Fox 35 for that story. One of the most disgusting videos I think I've ever witnessed in a Disney park. I come from, a decade plus of experience in Disney senior management, in particular within Disneyland. And I have to tell you that, I was there during the time of the really disgusting Toontown Brawl. Does everybody remember the Toontown Brawl? Where all hell broke loose in Toontown and basically an extended family beat the hell out of each other. And it went on what felt like, kind of like that one, went on forever, and was truly devastating to watch. While I wasn't there that day, to witness it firsthand, certainly it went viral. It was everywhere because anytime something like this happens in a place like a Disney park, right? This idealized place where magic happens and nothing bad can occur, right? Its virality is substantially more than, say, happening at the 7-Eleven down the street. So, not saying it makes it any better or, it's any less off. However, it's something that makes a bigger impact due to the setting. And so that's why it's something that more people, I think, pay attention to. But having watched what happened at Disneyland's Toontown a few years back, and witnessing, I think, more than anything, security, at least in Toontown at Disneyland, they weren't more than, I think, 40 seconds, a minute away from being there, according to the video. And what was really troubling was that once security arrived, they didn't do anything either. This is something that I think we all need to understand, is that security in life, in most places, a vast majority of locations that we might visit that have security, most security representation is to be seen only. They don't actually get involved. They don't actually do something. They don't actually interfere. They don't actually put a stop to much. They might say some things. They don't get physical, especially at Disneyland. And I remember having a conversation with security leadership shortly after that happened because it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing for Disneyland. It was embarrassing for Disney in general. It was embarrassing for me as a leader of the company. And, anytime something like that hits the virality market and gets out there in the news, friends, family, they ask me, what happened? How did that happen? Why would you guys let that happen? And I remember talking to a Disney leader in the security realm, and I said, that was pretty embarrassing, wasn't it? And she said, our security team did exactly what they should have done. They backed everybody else up and kept everybody else safe and just let the family, basically kill each other. Nobody died, but they let that family destroy each other. And they backed everybody else up. And that really is the protocol, by the way, for all Disney cast members. And like we saw in the video here just a few minutes ago of what was happening at Magic Kingdom, once the cast members finally got over there, and there was only a few of them, right? It was basically, four lady cast members, all with their phones out, because they were just calling for help. They didn't know what else to do because they don't have protocol. The protocol is like, oh, just try and get everybody back. And you heard some of the cast members saying, just take a step back, because that's all they're told to do. They don't physically get involved. They don't separate people. That's not what they are there to do, because that is not what Disney has taught them to do. Meanwhile, no security anywhere in Magic Kingdom, apparently. Security doesn't exist in Fantasyland. I saw the comment here a few minutes ago. So security's a fantasy at Magic Kingdom. Yeah, right? So not even the presence of security. Now, I will say that a few months ago, I did watch a video of a fight at Fantasmic at Disneyland. I think it was opening night. And that was something that was very interesting because I watched as Disneyland security did get physical that time. So don't know if those were just cast members who were tired of dealing with the nonsense and thought, no, we're going to stop this right now, and just went for it. But as far as I know, policy hasn't changed, and they're not supposed to put hands on anybody. There is, I think the shoplifting protocol of you can hold somebody by the arm. That's it. That's the extent. So, but I watched tackling happen on that video of Fantasmic at Disneyland. So at any rate, I'm interested to know, have you ever witnessed or been a part of a confrontation at Disney parks? Have you been directly involved? I'd be very interested in hearing that and sort of, what was your reaction? What was the situation? And then have you ever witnessed sort of all hell breaking loose, conflict, problems in the park that have led to something more physical or aggressive? Again, very disgusting, to say the least, that these sorts of things continue to occur. I know that this isn't the only one, too. I know that Walt Disney World's been having a lot of problems, especially on their boat ferries, right? Having so many of these brawls breaking out on the ferries back to the parking lot because It's like too many people are packing on and getting each other's space. I don't know what that is, but this is becoming a trend, basically. People fighting at Disney World, and certainly we're seeing more of it because everybody has a camera, but we're seeing a little bit more of it as time goes by. Laura says, what do you make of violent brawls occurring in Knott's Berry Farm and Walt Disney World within the same 3 days on opposite sides of the country? I mentioned it there in that story, and it was a big deal here at Knott's locally. It was all over our news that night because they shut down Knott's hours early. I mean, they shut down the whole park. They cleared everybody out. Certainly, they didn't do that at Magic Kingdom for this brawl that never seemed to end. But Knott's Berry Farm basically locked down the park and said, everybody get out. Even the people that weren't a part of this mess, everybody out. And now Knott's Berry Farm has instituted a new chaperone policy for visitors under 18 years old after a series of fights. And it mainly involved teenagers. The difference being that obviously Magic Kingdom and what we saw there, that was all between mostly adults, right? Those were all adults for the most part. Okay, so that's why I'm truly disgusted. Control yourselves. Get a grip. Knock it off. Grow up. But teenagers brought Knott's Berry Farm to their knees, I guess. And they caused panic, chaos in their fights that forced the Buena Park theme park to shut its gates early in order to ensure guest safety. And so Knott's has now implemented that chaperone policy. It went into effect last night, as a matter of fact, Friday, July the 22nd, and it will remain in effect on Fridays and Saturdays until further notice. Anybody under 21, right? You're going to need, doesn't matter. You're absolutely going to need a chaperone. So pretty wild excuse me. I think I got my numbers mixed up. So anybody under 18 will need a chaperone at least 21 years of age or older. So that's what it is. Okay, forgive me. I knew I got that right as I was saying it. So incorrect, rather, as I was saying it. 18-year-olds need somebody at least 21 years of age or older on Fridays and Saturdays to get into the parks at Knott's Berry Farm. So how about that? And this includes Soak City Water Park as well. So they're doing things to try and stop it. They're doing things to try and curb it. I will tell you that the very next day at Disneyland, the security presence was unlike anything I've ever seen. The day following, and I think the weekend even, I heard about it being something that people noticed all over the place. Following the incident of Knott's Berry Farm last week, the weekend that followed became just overwhelmingly saturated with security at every corner in both theme parks. Like, you saw them everywhere. So definitely trying to step it up. Anna saying, at least at Knott's, they were teenagers. This brawl at Walt Disney World, we're adults with kids. Exactly, Anna. Exactly. Not saying there's an excuse for teenagers to act stupid, but yeah, I know teenagers will act stupid from time to time. And, especially when they get together and they're trying to show off and everything. They cause some chaos sometimes. Adults, though, especially families dressed in celebratory Disney shirts, custom shirts that they made. I hope you're ashamed of yourselves. I'm glad people went to jail over this. Touch of Magic says, well, it happens every day here in Paris. Fights in the lines, at the ticketings, restaurants. Well, current every day. Well, I'm surprised we don't see more videos of that if that's the case. Faith Keepers says, so is MagicBand coming to Disneyland? It's been in the talks since they made Genie Plus. That's our next story that we will dive into here in just a moment. So stick around, Faith Keepers. Thanks for asking. Sean saying, with millions visiting the park, this is bound to happen. Yeah, I don't disagree that the sheer numbers, are obviously against the probability, and certainly allow for this sort of a thing. It fosters that environment, basically. Eventually, somebody's going to be pushed over the edge. But I mean, this was like an entire extended family going after another. I mean, this was a big group, and it seemed very chaotic and just really wild to watch something like this go down in not just anywhere in Magic Kingdom, Fantasyland of all the lands too. Yeah, and in front of Mickey's PhilharMagic of all places. John B saying, obviously it's in front of Mickey's PhilharMagic. The fight was over perceived line cutting when one member of a group went out of line to get a cell phone left in their cart and tried to get back in. Yep, John, just like we mentioned in the story, it's something that is pretty nutso, right? I mean, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. I've watched people cut in line. I don't flip out. I don't shove them. I don't scream at them or anything like that. A lot of times I give them the benefit of the doubt and just assume they are meeting up with other people, right? Like that's usually what it seems like. So I don't know how blatant it must have been for all hell to break loose the way that it did. Mike says, I've defended a cast member in a guest being an a-hole and being vulgar. Guest was feeling pretty big until I stood up for the nice lady. Good for you. I'm glad things didn't get physical, but I've watched that myself, and as somebody that deals with the direct concerns, in my past life as a Disney leader and somebody that would ultimately deal with the worst among the guest population, people that created the biggest fuss or the biggest complaints, ultimately it would come to me. As someone that came from that background, I would often, and I still do, stick up for cast members when I was off the clock, and now as a commoner in the park, I often stick up for cast members, and I don't mind telling people to knock it off or maybe shape up or ship out, sort of a thing. I don't say those things specifically, but I definitely make sure that I get the point across to Mike of, hey, don't be screaming at this poor minimum wage kid, like you think this is their decision? You think they are the ones that ultimately ruined your vacation because Indiana Jones is down for the 6th time today? Come on, get with it. All right. Jeffrey saying, maybe adults need a chaperone at Walt Disney World now too. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. That's great. Bob saying, I've never seen no like it. I think maybe you are saying, I've never seen anything like it. That's insane at the happiest place in the world. Yes, Bob, it is. Anna saying, I watched two women almost go to blows at Disneyland around 6 years ago. It went on for about 8 minutes. Their family got them to stop. I used to say, too, whenever I encountered people getting physical, something I used to say to diffuse it is, look around, women and children everywhere. Do you really want this to be an example for the babies? Do you really want this to be an example for kids? Because this isn't about you. It's about them and the impact that you're making. Think of what you're doing. When you try and explain things more logically, as the rage is taking over some people, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I would often say those sorts of things. And even protocol being what it was, I always got in between people and separated them. And I never once just tried to hold everybody else back. I let the rest of the cast members do that. But as somebody in leadership, I thought, I'm not going to let this happen. You've got to be kidding me. And Anaheim police were always steps away. They have a substation behind Main Street. They're very close to anything that's going on. They just have to get there. And sometimes it takes a little while. And somebody that, I was in the salaried ranks, like I said, senior leadership. So I wasn't necessarily certain that I was going to get in trouble for anything. Like I didn't have that feeling like I was going to get lectured if I stopped something chaotic from happening. And I never did. In fact, I was told good job more often than I wasn't, just because I think it was the right thing to do. So at any rate, totally, Anna. Tinker is saying, fighting shows no class. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you all for taking the time to check in, share your thoughts, and definitely contribute to some of the commentary that's going on here when it comes to our news stories. As always, that is what Disney News Talk Live is all about, making sure that your voice is heard, your park experiences, your Disney opinions. All right, as mentioned, let's talk a little bit about MagicBand Plus and what that means for Walt Disney World. It's coming at us here just in the next couple of days. The following is courtesy of newsobserver.com. They write that Disney World annual pass holders and hotel guests used to get free Magic Bands simply for joining the annual pass program or booking one night or more at one of the company's on-property hotels, while also buying tickets to one of its 4 Florida theme parks. You got a free watch-like bracelet that served as your admission ticket, room key, and a few other things. This neat perk kept park visitors from having to keep track of a physical credit card-like ticket or to regularly pull their phones out. In January 2021, Disney discontinued the free Magic Band program, and it moved many of the Magic Band features to its mobile app. That may seem like progress, as it requires park and hotel guests to keep track of one less thing, but Disney has never addressed the challenge of keeping your phone charged during a long day at Disney World. The 4 parks have few places where charging a phone is easy or even possible. Guests run down their batteries by taking photos, checking social media, and doing all the other things that their phones are used for. In 2021, the company did not eliminate Magic Bands, it simply stopped giving them away for free. Quote, Disney Resort hotel guests will still be able to purchase new Magic Bands at a discounted price, and Disney says they will continue releasing new Magic Band colors and designs. These will continue to be sold at retail locations as well as online. Now, Disney has a new version of its Magic Bands, and as you might imagine, nobody will be getting one free. Disney has tried a variety of different ways to create app-based experiences to make its theme parks more interactive. These may have not been overly successful, perhaps because customers don't want to play phone-based games while at a theme park, and or because people are worried about running down their batteries. Now, Disney has created Magic Band Plus, which does all the old Magic Band things, theme park and guest room entry, Disney PhotoPass service, and a few other things, as well as a bunch of new stuff. Quote, the next generation Magic Band Plus will retain those popular features and add new functionality to unlock experiential moments of magic throughout the Walt Disney World theme parks and resorts, the company said in a news release. After a guest enters a theme park, Magic Band Plus will come alive at various times with color-changing lights, haptic vibrations, and gesture recognition, enhancing the environment's storytelling. The wearable will allow guests to engage with favorite Disney moments in new ways and discover new interactive experiences. The new features include a scavenger hunt tied to Disney World's 50th anniversary and a new bounty hunter experience at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Magic Band Plus goes on sale July 27th, with annual pass holders and resort guests getting a break on its $34.99 price. Over the past few years, and particularly since the pandemic hit, Disney has focused on optimizing monetization at its theme parks. This effort has included moving to demand-based pricing, where tickets cost more at times when demand is higher, and dropping the free FastPass Plus system in favor of the paid Genie Plus and Lightning Lane services. This is Disney understanding that its theme parks are a premium experience and the company can command more money for that. When you have already paid thousands of dollars for admission and your hotel room, these added charges may be annoying, but you're not going to skip them if Magic Band Plus, Genie Plus, or Lightning Lane might enhance your vacation. Disney understands its customers, people, at least some of them, may not like the added charges, but they're probably still going to pay them. Once again, our thanks to News Observer for that story. Magic Band Plus on the way to Walt Disney World. Now we know it for sure. And interesting, right, that it's still not quite on the way for Disneyland. before the end of the year. Huh. Is this the same communication plan they have for Magic Key renewals? I don't know what's going on here, but at any rate, interested to hear from you. What are you looking forward to most when it comes to MagicBand Plus? Do you feel like those perks, those things that MagicBand Plus is supposed to do for you, is going to be worth the price? Do you feel like the upcharge is something that you are going to absolutely plunk down for and say, yeah, no, slap that on my wrist. I need this bad boy when I go to Disney World next. Yeah, it is strange. I mean, we went from a place where they were throwing these things at us saying, please just use them. Please just use them. And now we're on the back end of the experience and they're like, it can do a little bit more. So go ahead and pay. We want to know, are you somebody that is going to definitely take part in MagicBand Plus? Do you plan on utilizing them when they come to Disneyland later this year? And I guess ultimately, what are you looking forward to the most when it comes to MagicBand Plus? Well, my friends, you stick around. Plenty more Disney News Talk Live coming up next, including your comment. Disney News Talk Live. If you are somebody that is watching this broadcast after the fact on demand, make sure that you are sounding off just as much as our friends are in our live chat right now. We want to hear from you as well. All right, so as mentioned, we are asking you, when it comes to MagicBand Plus, exactly if you intend to utilize these bad boys, if this is something that you are interested in. It's going to be worth the upcharge. Jeffrey says, sure, I don't need a new MagicBand for my upcoming trip since I have my watch, phone, old MagicBand, but being a techie, I will be ordering a pre-arrival one. Guilty. All right, Jeffrey, you are guilty. Very good. Thanks for sounding off. Tinkerbell saying, that's actually pretty amazing, no doubt referring to a lot of the things that they have planned for MagicBand Plus. Very good. Bob Smith asking, can bands be reused on the next trip? As I understand it, yes. Yeah, those bands can be reutilized. So, purchasing them and then, sort of, I guess, reactivating, if you will, before you return is something that you'll be able to do. So, might be worth the investment. John B. saying, optimizing monetization, translation, prioritize, making money. Got that right. And Jeffrey following up by saying again, I can still use my iPhone and Apple Watch in lieu of a MagicBand, but still get at least one to play with functionality. They'll probably add them to the app at some point anyway. I can see that happening. Kevin saying, bruh, I just want the regular FastPass system back. Kevin, digital high five. Digital high five to you, my friend. Very good. Will you let us know, folks, are you going to be utilizing a MagicBand Plus when you next go to Walt Disney World, purchasing one when it eventually comes to Disneyland? We want to hear from you. I know that it is a source of contention among Disney fans. You gave us something free, now you're charging for it. Tale as old as time, right? I guess that's kind of what happens in Disney parks nowadays. Hey, something else happening in Disney parks, specifically Disneyland Resort, coming up this October. Cast members are going to be held to a completely different standard than they have been in the last decade and some change, and that is because Disneyland is going to be implementing a brand new attendance policy on cast members. Might not be as great as it sounds, though. Mice Chat reporting that this could very well be the start of more problems for the theme parks. What are we talking about? How's this supposed to happen? We got the details for you in this next story. Our friends over at MiceChat.com write the following about Disneyland staffing issues and what they anticipate will happen next, seeing as how the Disneyland Resort is about to change their attendance policy for cast members. They write that the Disneyland Resort now employs well over 30,000 cast members. About 1/3 of the cast is new, and turnover among the existing cast is the highest in recent memory. All of that makes staffing and training more important than ever. Many new cast don't even finish their training or probationary period before quitting, or just failing to show up. And, due to the ongoing health crisis, many more cast are gone for long periods of time, often without adequate backup staff to fill the void. This is one reason why restaurant reservations get canceled and locations that should be operating end up opening late, closing early, or never opening for the day. This is a problem for everyone. Guests experience a park not quite operating at full efficiency. Managers struggle to fill required roles, and employees are often forced into overtime or have to work stressful shifts in understaffed locations, while guests who don't understand the staffing crisis behave poorly, sometimes even yelling and screaming at them. The situation isn't specific to Disney. Almost all companies in Southern California are fighting over a dwindling pool of available labor, especially for entry-level jobs such as the Disneyland Resort primarily offers. Generally, a company that needs more employees will offer higher pay, more flexibility, or add special perks to entice job applicants. But Disney is going a different route. Those who work full-time jobs in office settings will be familiar with a 3 or 4 strike HR system, which escalates reprimands for attendance violations before terminating an employee. While it's never fun to be given a warning by your manager, it's an established and widespread system that mostly works for full-time employees being paid a living wage. The basic idea is to show up for work if you don't want to lose your job. But such policies fall apart when you deal with low-wage and part-time workers because they often have special scheduling needs arising from working multiple jobs or juggling school and often childcare as well. As a result of its low-wage and mostly part-time workforce, Disneyland has long adopted a more complicated but also more flexible point system instead of a severe 3-strike system for attendance issues. The current system allowed enough points for missing a few shifts, and employees were given enough points to deal with most scheduling conflicts with other jobs or schools, and an employee would only receive points for the first day of a multi-day illness. But all of that will be out the window in October as Disneyland does away with flexibility and adopts the more strict corporate-style HR strike system, even for lower wage and part-time theme park workers. Under the new HR system, newer employees would be fired after their 3rd warning, a verbal, written, then final warning. An extra warning is allowed for employees with 5 or more years of service. Disney offers the minimum amount of sick time allowable by California law. After that, the warnings begin. In normal times, that might be enough sick time for most employees, but not in extraordinary times such as these. You can imagine the reaction this news is generating among Disneyland workers who are walking the tightrope of more than one job or shifting school schedules. And single parents with kids have almost the impossible task of figuring out how to deal with sick children and their own illnesses with only 3 strikes available per year. One bout of a highly transmissible virus, such as the ones going around now, making its way through your family, and you'd be out of your job at Disney, they write. While this process will surely work fine for Disney office workers and full-time managers, we suspect that staffing will become an even bigger crisis for this company once this policy is enacted. Rather than becoming a more enticing workplace, Disneyland will suddenly become one of the most restrictive, basically offering the bare minimum of what the state of California will allow. And at current low wages, we aren't sure Disneyland will be able to successfully compete for the labor needed to properly serve guests. Worse, the policy seems almost certain to create a wave of illnesses inside the company, where employees near their final warning will be forced to come to work sick or risk losing their jobs. This means that their coworkers and guests could also be at greater risk. How and why this particular policy is being pushed at this difficult moment in time is mind-boggling. At the very least, Disney should push the policy off until health and labor issues moderate. That would also give more time to rethink separate systems for full-time and part-time workers instead of expecting one system to work for two very different types of employees. Here's how the new system works. Note that Disney introduces the system by calling it flexible, but then proceeds to show how strict it actually is with no examples of flexibility whatsoever. Disney wrote that a new attendance policy has been developed that provides improved work stability for our cast members while still providing options for flexibility in work schedules. The new policy will address ongoing attendance issues, improve the overall cast work experience, and allow time for things that come up in life while holding everyone accountable for showing up for their scheduled shifts. After extensive review, including roundtables with our hourly, non-union cast, the Disneyland Resort is prepared to take steps toward implementation of the new attendance policy, saying that next steps are that the current attendance policy will remain in effect until October 1st, 2022, and the future attendance policy will go into effect on October the 2nd, 2022. All leaders will attend training in August. Hourly cast members will receive additional education on the policy in September. Once again, our thanks to Mice Chat for this story. Disney News Talk Live, your opinions, your Disney parks experiences. Wade with you here. As you heard there, the entire attendance policy is about to be shifted around for the sake of Disneyland Resort cast members, both hourly and the individuals that may say, work in an office full time. So folks that might not necessarily be boots on the ground are also going to be impacted by this. Now, I can definitely tell you from somebody that has experienced this firsthand, both as a cast member in an hourly boots on the ground role and as somebody who had cast members reporting to me in a leadership position, that the attendance policy at Disneyland is broken. It is a mess. And we will dive into specifics here in just a moment. But before we get to that, I'm interested in hearing your take. Have you noticed any staffing delays, any issues on a recent Disney parks trip, Disney World or Disneyland? Have you noticed any attractions opening late? Have you noticed any restaurants canceling reservations? Have you encountered problems with staffing at either of the coasts? Be very interested in hearing your perspective on that matter. And Disney News Talk Live rolls on. Plenty more next. Your comments straight ahead. Disney News Talk Live, hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you are subscribed so you never miss a thing from this channel. Certainly want to give a big thanks to everybody that watched our Disneyland update from this past week. It is one of the most, we'll just call it well-received things here on the channel. People seem to love those in-park updates, and so we will definitely be doing more for you as time wears on. And Kingdom Report Live, our studio broadcast, where you can typically see myself, Tyler Crouch, Katrina Manzoni, Garrett Hassel, and Sabina Graves. Will be returning in just about 2 weeks, so we may be having another Disney News Talk Live next week, so keep that in mind. If you are interested in sounding off, sharing your thoughts and opinions next week, meet right here at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. Okay, so before we listen to that Disneyland band beauty come pouring out of those instruments, right? We were talking about the Disneyland Resort cast members really being transitioned over, I guess we could say, to a brand new attendance policy that is going to be enacted this October. So why is this important to you, right? If you're not a Disneyland cast member, what do you care? Well, it's going to have some significant impacts on your visit. And if people only understood, if park guests only understood exactly what goes on behind the scenes in terms of staffing, current day, right now, modern day, last 10 years in particular, I think it might blow your mind. So Disneyland, and the Mice Chat story really did, I think, cover it well to a certain degree. For some context, as somebody that's been there and gone through it myself, I can tell you that this is an organization, Disneyland Resort, that decides to hire people at wages that are not necessarily all that realistic to afford much in a place like Orange County, California, okay? Oftentimes, those folks are hired in as part-time people. Very rarely are they hired in at full-time. Now, they can convert to full-time later, but very rarely are they hired in at full-time. Those part-time individuals that come aboard are then scheduled maximum amounts of hours, stretched out as far as they can be stretched out, to a point that they, number one, have other jobs, right? Because there are off seasons still at Disneyland and off peak times where they have to get another job to survive. And this is the situation that big bulk of cast members are in. They have to get another job to survive. So they have another gig, or they're in school. Usually it's one of the two. And the problem really becomes them being able to make both work. Now, one of the questions that people get asked on the way through the door is, do you have another job? Is this going to be a priority for you? Of course, everybody says, yeah, no, it's a priority. Yeah, no, I'll be here. You bet. But they don't realize what's going to come at them schedule-wise. There is so much that stretches them into a new day. They work late, get off at 3 in the morning. That's realistic for a lot of frontline cast members. Getting off at 3 in the morning, or arriving at 4:30 in the morning for another shift. Yeah, those sorts of things are realistic. So stretching them to a certain degree adds to a very quick burnout. That's what I've witnessed. And because they're not paid very much, right? Again, think about where they're living. Many of them come from Orange County, California, or LA County. Either way, you're paying a ridiculous amount of money to live in Southern California. And so most have secondary jobs in order to survive, or they live at home. And then, they still need to focus on their studies. They still need to focus on education. And therefore, they call out. So one of the things I wanted to mention is oftentimes, because Disneyland knows this, they will overhire, right? They hire in mass to try and counteract the problems that so many of the areas have. So a lot of these lands from the different divisions, your food and beverage, your retail locations, your attractions, your entertainment, they try to hire in mass and overstaff all of these locations so that there is a never-ending well of people to reach to, because they know, this comes from executive leadership's mouths, they know that there is rampant call-out rates. People call out left and right. There were days where there would be 80 call-outs in a department. 80. There may have been 104 people working that day. 80 people called out. That's not an exaggeration. It's quite common. That still happens now. Now, don't get me wrong, there's also the problem of people abusing it. That happens like crazy. Okay, you have a handful of folks that I'm sure truly are utilizing it to make ends meet. Right? They have to call out in order to work the other job that probably pays them a little bit more. They have to be there for that. And because Disney has created this point system that Mice Chat talked about, this point system basically allows them to do all of it and not really be held to any sort of standard. There are no real repercussions. And this is from my own personal experience. As someone who would have to come after those individuals that hit the infractions, right? They hit the thresholds of now they have over 60 points, right? And they've blown through their ceiling of what they're allowed to have. It got to a point where you would follow up with these cast members, and there were so many company-specific excuses that they could use and state-specific excuses that they could use that you couldn't really hold them accountable. There was nothing you could do. Coming to work at Disneyland became more of a suggestion to a lot of cast members. So I can see things from both sides here. When you've created a monster, the monster is going to be very upset when you try and tame it. And a monster has been created with this loosey-goosey, ridiculous, over-the-top, points-allowed system that's been installed. And it's been there for a long time. So I see it from, again, both sides. You've got the Mice Chat side also talking about this, where you're hiring people not necessarily at much of a living wage, especially by county comparisons. You aren't hiring them in even with enough hours, but then you expect extreme hours out of them. What do you expect them to do in the interim? They have to survive, so they probably have another job. And then when things get busy, you need them for maximum amount of hours. And now we're stomping all over the territory of the other job. So now they're calling out left and right. But you have a business to run, right? As a leader at Disneyland. So you're scheduling them, and because you can't get them there physically, what do you say? Well, I need more people. I need help. So then the recruiting team starts to hire en masse just to create a never-ending well of talent to go through in hopes that, hey, at least you'll have enough people on standby. And I have to tell you, that happened a lot, where you would have your scheduling teams overstaff your location. They were called pads in certain areas. You would have literal pad positions. And you know what would happen? Some cast members would see that there were pads scheduled, and they would go, oh, there's going to be somebody there. I don't have to worry about it. I'm just going to call off. And they wouldn't show up because they had a pad already scheduled. They knew somebody else was going to be there. I saw days where pads that were scheduled called out in mass and nobody showed up. It is a mess. It is terrible. And it is one of the biggest headaches Disneyland has had to contend with. And now they are trying to tame the monster they've created. This is not going over well. The unions are furious. The cast members, especially the ones that abuse this system, are really upset. Mice Chat also points out, and I think this is a really good perspective, Mice Chat also points out, right, the whole, think about parents that are involved here that work in these jobs. If you have a family that gets sick, and then you get sick, and it runs the gamut of the family, and you're trying to take care of your kids, and this doesn't allow a whole lot of flexibility. And I don't know that this is the correct system. It does seem, this whole 3 strikes concept, this is to go from what they had at virtually unlimited call-outs. And I know some people will say, oh no, of course there are requirements, of course there are thresholds. Yeah, but in reality, almost nobody got terminated for attendance. Almost nobody, it became a joke, especially in leadership. It's like, oh, what excuse are we going to hear today? You couldn't do anything. It was a waste of your time to even follow up with people about attendance issues when it created the biggest business headache that you had in leadership. So you would just say, well, staff more, schedule more, hope people show up. That's how things have been. So now here we are with this radically restrictive, far more. And I get it. This is what normal workplaces really implement, right? Like, this is more of a normal workplace. But Disneyland isn't normal. I've just laid out for you in context sort of how they hire and what they hire as. Part-time, no hours until they really need you. And then they super stretch you. You're burnout. And can you handle that? I mean, can you even, hopefully you get full-time, but then can you even survive on that salary? A lot of times they're not even reinvesting, really, is what this is. They're not reinvesting the record profits that Disney Parks always sees into the individuals that make it happen. And now we are finally seeing the wheels coming off the wagon. Where this is all, what this is all coming down to, truly, is Disney had pretty much a full well of cast members right before the pandemic shutdown. Nobody could have expected that Disneyland would remain closed as long as it did. When Disneyland reopened, a lot of those people didn't come back. A lot of those cast members did not return to their jobs. And it has been like pulling teeth to try and get anyone hired and through the door there now. And we think about what has happened, right? We think about what has occurred in that time and just how much frustration, just how much division has been created by the company, how it's alienated people on both sides of the aisle, how the brand has changed significantly since 2019. We see all of that. And it is, without a doubt, a big piece as to why they are having a hard time getting people through the door. In addition to all of that, there is an ad blitz in Southern California like I have never seen for Disneyland jobs. Billboards, commercials. It's like a political campaign. It's like every other commercial is a Disneyland jobs commercial. Radio. I see it on websites constantly. Disneyland.jobs, Disneyland.jobs, Disneyland.jobs. Think of the magic you can make. Go and look at some of the comments underneath these ads where you can publicly comment. What used to be, oh my God, my dream job is, oh my gosh, I so want to do this. Oh my gosh, are you guys hiring for? Have now turned into radically negative responses. There's more to this than just people didn't come back to work. There's a perception PR issue now that Disney hasn't really felt before. And this is all combining into the perfect storm of chaos that I don't know come October, when all of this goes into effect, I don't know that this isn't just going to blow up in their face. Again, I think the current system is terrible and something needed to be done. I don't know that it was this. And Mice Chat made the point too. I don't know that this is the right time when you are so desperate for people to get through the door and wear that name tag anyway. Things are bad. Things are not looking good on the staffing front. All right. Let's head on over to you and see what you think. Some of your comments, some of your thoughts. Jeffrey saying, I'm sure some of the problem is being caused by some bad eggs abusing the system as well. Jeffrey, amen. So many, unfortunately, of so many of these call outs, so many of these issues are created by people that are, in fact, bad eggs. And, unfortunately, a lot of folks that end up having a lot of tenure too, that just decide, I want to go to the beach today. And they call off because they know there's going to be, again, a well of people there to pull from. Not so much anymore, but there are bad eggs. Full-time, part-time, you name it. Absolutely. And unfortunately, it's become, like I said a little bit earlier, it's almost like just a suggestion to come to work with the current system because nothing's really going to happen to you. You just play the points game. Everybody knows how to play it. Bordeaux says, what a novel idea. Show up to work, for work, to maintain your job. Solution, hire more seniors with good work ethic. Bordeaux, I don't disagree with you when it comes to hiring seniors. I was also in a role with Disneyland for many years as somebody that recruited and was a part of casting. And I have to tell you, when we had somebody that was retired come in, I was overjoyed because I know they show up. I know that they had a work ethic. I know that they were excited to come to work. They didn't live at home with mom and dad and weren't, they didn't care about bills. That's unfortunately also a big demographic at Disneyland. Cast members that just don't care because what does it matter? I don't have anything to pay, so this job's icing on the cake. In addition to the part-time problems that I was talking about. So, and Walt Disney World's in a different situation where they rely so heavily on the Disney College program to sustain everything. And having those cast members in there. And we've watched, by the way, I think, as a guest demographic, I think we've all watched as the service standards at Disney World have dipped significantly over the course of probably the last 15 to 20 years, right? As less and less people are invested in as talent to come work there, full-time cast members, it's a career, it's a job that they want to invest themselves in. Disney's made it very clear. These are not career jobs, these frontline hourly roles. There are professional roles you can get into, but the majority of the park roles, these aren't for people that want to make a career out of this. And therefore, those are the type of people you get. Folks that aren't as serious about it because you're not as serious about it as an employer. Laura says, I'm just so lucky I went so often to Disneyland and Walt Disney World when it was truly a vacation to escape and not a ridiculously expensive headache. Yeah, there's a lot of drama surrounding the parks now. Single Rider saying that sick policy is very true. My friend is an hourly cast member. I get the same info. Yeah, that's definitely how the sick policy works. And Single Rider mentioning that they are an Imagineer of many decades here in our chat. So Single Rider, welcome. It's great to have you. Dog saying, this was the way it was in 1979 when I was a Walt Disney World cast member. Do you mean the proposed and coming October specifications? Is that what we're talking about here as to what's going to be happening? I have no doubt. As I understand it, the point system is something that came around in the early 2000s, really. So, yeah, I would understand. Yeah, it was like a real job. Well, and they also hired people at that time and invested in them differently, didn't they? Tinkerbell saying, so is this happening because of the COVID-19 worker program? Well, here's the thing, Tinkerbell. It's confusing, right? Why would you implement this right now when you're already having a hard time getting people through the door to work for you? And then you're restricting their ability to take even sick time to a certain degree in a time where realistically, today we started the program by talking about it, right? I mean, cases are up again of the virus, and it affects everybody differently, radically. So is this? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why this timing is something that they think needs to happen this fall. This fall, we need to go into effect. Other than the beast needed to be tamed at some point, I just don't know. I would have done it this year because they, by their own admission, Disneyland is still not 100% reopened. They're still not at full capacity by their own admission. I don't know what's left really, but they say they're not reopened fully. So implementing this now, I guess it's a Band-Aid situation. You rip it off now and you feel the pain, or you rip it off later. But this is going to cause a lot of problems when they're already understaffed to begin with. Bob Smith saying, Tyler for new CEO Bob. That campaign wages on. If you watched Kingdom Report Live last week, you certainly know what we're talking about. Tyler Crouch, our theme park analyst, talking about what he is going to do to make Disney a better place. Bob also saying, I'm really loving this cast. Well, thank you, Bob. That means an awful lot. Patty saying, love the in-park updates. Patty, thank you so much for watching. Absolutely. We're going to be doing more of them, and certainly they are fun to put together, and we like to keep our eye on things. Keeping them honest. That's what we do. Single Rider saying, Disneyland talent is amazing. And I absolutely agree. I notice a tremendous difference between sort of the heart and character of the Disneyland cast members. It's so much more warm. It's so much more connected to Walt Disney than, say, Walt Disney World. Not saying that Disney World doesn't have stellar cast members. They certainly do. There are fantastic cast members on that side as well. However, Disneyland, bar none, spectacular cast members. Anna saying the only rides that opened late during her last trip to Disneyland in June was Big Thunder Mountain Railroad and Indiana. Big Thunder opened 35 minutes late, and Indiana Jones opened an hour late. Yeah, I'm seeing that more and more as I get to the parks early in the morning. There's like a delayed land opening in New Orleans Square sometimes, where Pirates won't open and Haunted Mansion won't open until 10 a.m. You know why? They can't staff it. That is exactly what's going on. Bob saying, as a manager in a restaurant, I feel that. You get it, Bob. John saying, most are part-time, full-time would give them benefits. Exactly it, John. And that's one of the things Disney keeps holding back from. You want to reinvest in your people. You want to invest for quality. You pull the trigger and you spend the money that it takes to get the investment you want. Dog asking, what happened to CT? CT's where individuals, I think it was called casual temporary was the classification. So there's, your part-time casual regulars, what they call it in Disney speak, and then you have your full-time regulars. CT was basically done away with at the Disneyland resorts. I think there might be a few holdouts that have just tenure and haven't gone anywhere. But for the most part, that is no longer a classification. That was like your temporary seasonal worker that would show up Christmas and summer only, but they did away with those a couple years ago. Laura saying, Wade, you are such an articulate voice of truth and intelligence. Oh my gosh, that's so sweet. Truth and intelligence in a Disney universe that seems to become more chaotic than magical with every passing day. That hits me right in the heart. Thank you, Laura. That's incredibly sweet of you to say. And yeah, we do this because we love Disney, but we also want to keep things honest, especially with a CEO that we can't necessarily trust anymore, and an organization that seems to be eroding a little bit, to say the least. Mandy saying hello. Hi, Mandy. All right, let's take a look here. Shelly Smith saying, service. I talked to Dave yesterday about the meeting we had at TDA many years ago that you set up. I am so thankful for that option, and told Dave I still remedy the stories told to us. Shelly, thank you. Shelly, a former cast member that I had the pleasure of working with. Thanks for being in chat, Shelly. What a nice surprise. It is, an honor to have served in any sort of responsibility at Disney, and to have represented it for as long as I got to represent it for. And certainly, Shelly, individuals like yourself are ones that carry that legacy on and make, I think, the biggest amount of impact, because at the core of what Disney is a place to make people happy, is a place to uplift and inspire, and that's what you do. You are one of those, remarkable cast members that I think make the most tremendous of impacts in people's lives. And you know what? It was a true honor working with you. And I'll tell you, there are some cast members I never felt that way about. some that I would never say that about. Mostly the ones that called out and left everything to chaos. But thank you, Shelly, very much. You make probably the biggest difference out of all. Shelly also saying, we are getting paid much higher than that. Now I agree that staffing and the quality of staff is sad now. I believe that the making the magic is so important. I will stand on that foundation. Absolutely. Yeah, there has been a reinvestment in wages. That's a good point, Shelly. I should say that. You're absolutely right. There has been a reinvestment in wages to lift things above, of course, the minimum wage line, and get things just a little bit more incentivized to get people through the door. Especially, there's a lot of bonuses right now to get hired at Disneyland. They're throwing everything at the wall trying to get people through the door. But by comparison, we're also watching inflation go through the roof. We're also watching things become far more expensive, and so things are just pacing out again, right? They're just completely pacing and leveling. That's all that's happening. So while I know that there are folks that have been at Disneyland for a while that will make substantially more because of their tenure, those folks coming through the door really, and unfortunately, I don't think are making as much of a competitive wage as they used to just even a few years ago, just on the other side of 2019, right? They're not even making what they made then because of how radical inflation has affected and impacted everything. Dog saying that the problem is bad supervisors that schedule part-time workers to work full-time. Absolutely, that happens an awful lot. Let's see. Debbie's saying, I was getting $9.25 per hour. I never got over 30 hours. I couldn't live on my own. Some people, me included, put their heart into working at the park. California Adventures, where she worked, always moving you to a different store wasn't always fun. Some lands just fit you more. I heard they gave a raise, never heard how much, but they deserve a lot more. We did and do a lot. Yeah, and certainly California has raised minimum wage. I think we just passed the $15 mark, or we're getting close, something like that. And so Disneyland did a preemptive strike and raised wages hourly across the board here not too long ago, a couple years ago, and they plan to continue to do that. But I revert back to what I was just saying that these wages aren't paying very much in comparison to how inflation is just killing stuff. Mike saying the counter argument is that theme park jobs are meant for younger and college kids and or part-time outside salaried management positions. Entry-level jobs were never meant to provide for a family. I completely agree, Mike. The problem is that they're scheduling them like they're full-time. And that's where the real issue, sort of, I think, expands in this space is they're scheduling them as though, then the peaks and valleys of you went from a very quiet time to a very busy time all of a sudden, and now you're scheduling people, these wild amounts of hours, and they went from having maybe 5 hours a week, so they had to get a second job, and now they're on the other side of it, getting 40 plus hours a week, or getting pushed to the limit of what part-timers are allowed to work nowadays, and now they can't do the other job because Disney is calling them left and right and trying to get them through the door. And I've completely subscribed to the idea too, Mike, of like, okay, yeah, they are considered entry-level jobs, but stop scheduling them like they are full-time jobs. Stop scheduling them like they are, meant to be your life-sustaining jobs for your operations if you're not willing to invest a little bit more to make people feel as though they should place value on their work again, as they should place a little bit more significance on their roles and responsibilities, because a monster's been created there in terms of the attendance policies, because they've just sort of, over the course of the last 15 to 20 years, shrugged, given up, and said, we'll just keep hiring more because we aren't willing to invest what we need to. And I'm not saying give a frontline entry-level job $100 an hour. That's not what I'm saying at all. But when you look at how much it costs to live here, and you also see inflation, and you recognize that your hours are never consistent, and you're scheduled like a maniac, and you're probably going to show up and not have anybody else with you to help. These things take a real toll very quick. All right. Iron Souls says, let's be fair. If your employer treats you as a disposable cog to be used whenever it's useful for them, is it surprising people are loyal to show up to work? It's not so much work ethic, I think. Yeah, it's a really great point, too. I think that there is a tremendous amount of reality in that comment, mainly because it gets to a point, and we've seen it with different presidents at Disneyland in particular, where we've watched as new leadership gets ushered in, and they have like 3-year contracts there. So it's like every 3 years we get a new president over at Disneyland. But I recall that every time a new president arrived, you knew if they were really cast focused and as an employer, they cared about the individuals in those name tags, or if you were just another number. And there were a few presidents like that. I'm not afraid to name them too, but there were a few presidents that really did treat it like, you were nothing more than your ID number. And even as localized leadership trying to lead teams, it was very hard to fend off that perception, because if it comes from the top, you're seen as the top. you're seen as that hierarchy. Therefore, people are going to assume that you have the same perspective as the leadership and kind of look at them the same way. Bordeaux saying, gotta run. Good stuff. Happy I stopped by. Bordeaux, thank you for giving us a shot. That means an awful lot. All right. I am Doom saying, Disneyland is more localized. It's like the cast members could be your neighbors. Yeah, very true. Ellie saying, or is that Eli saying, my grandpa said if you pay your employees bananas, you'll get monkeys. That's what a silly term. Yeah, it's true, Stacy saying, Rise and Indy were delayed almost daily while we were there at the beginning of June. Yeah, Stacy, I'm hearing it more and more. Things are just not opening the way that they should. Mainly because of staffing. Lori Jean saying Disneyland's People Mover is coming back in the near future. Well, Lori Jean, it's a rumor right now. We don't know it for sure, but boy, wouldn't that be awesome. We talked about it in our Disneyland in-park update this past week, that rumors ahead of the D23 Expo are that they might recreate a new, or recreate the People Mover with a new track, basically, because the current track just would fall apart, so they need that. Lauren Anderson saying it was run by a storyteller. It was run by a storyteller that was told no more often than yes, but did it anyway. We need to bring that magic making spirit back to the top. Lauren, I completely agree. Sorry I butchered that. All right. Friends, I want to thank you so much for being a part of the broadcast today. It's been an awful lot of fun, and I always appreciate you chiming in and sharing your thoughts and perspectives. It means so dang much to me. This has been a joy, an absolute joy to be a part of your weekend in some capacity, and if you are watching on demand, a part of your life in any capacity. As always, new videos throughout the week here on the Kingdom Report YouTube channel. Kingdom Report Live returning in 2 weeks' time, and if you haven't done so already, a thumbs up means an awful lot. A subscribe means even more, because it lets us know that we are heading in the right direction. We'll probably be back for another Disney News Talk Live next Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, at 12 p.m. Pacific. If you haven't done so already, make sure that you are waiting in the wings to leave the phrase that pays this week in order to win your very own Kingdom Report mug. Just after this broadcast ends, as soon as the live video is over, you can leave a comment underneath this video on our YouTube channel, The Kingdom Report on YouTube. The phrase that pays, Tower of Terror. Tower of Terror is the phrase that pays in the comment section down below. Leave it beneath this very video. You have between now and Monday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific time, Monday the 25th, to leave the phrase that pays underneath this video following the live broadcast. If you're the winner, we will reach out to you and say, hey, what kind of color you want? We'll be getting you your very own Kingdom Report mug. And for all of us at the Kingdom Report, it means an awful lot that we could spend some time with you, talk a little Disney shop, and get to know you just a little bit better. On our way out, some words of wisdom from Walt Disney himself. See you next week for another edition of Disney News Talk Live.